Our next guest is feeling bullish, upgrading the tech giant from neutral to buy and raising his price target from $200 a share to $230. Gil Luria, DA Davidson Managing Director, joins us now with more. Gil, let's start with the share price action. We saw shares close down about 2% yesterday. We're pretty muted right now. Is this a sell the news event, or what do you think was missing here for investors?
Well, I think there was a lot of noise. A lot of people have very strong opinions about Apple and its products, and were maybe had expectations for something that would blow them away and be unprecedented. That's not what Apple needed to do. Apple, what they did yesterday was exactly what you described. They took all this technology that's been developed over the last year and a half and integrated and personalized it into their platform. What that means is that a lot of this functionality that right now we have to use away from our other applications. We have to go outside of our application to go to ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude, will now be seamlessly integrated into the applications we already use. That means we're going to go from hundreds of millions of people using generative AI to billions of people as soon as this is introduced. And that's what's going to drive an iPhone upgrade cycle for the first time in 4 years. That's what's important here. A lot of noise, a lot of people with different expectations coming in. But if you look at the signal away from the noise, you realize that this is unprecedented capabilities that Apple is going to introduce, and it's going to integrate AI into everyday life.
Yeah, and I mean, even as we're thinking about the iPhone and what this new kind of super cycle is that could be driven because of generative AI being integrated into these consumer technology products, it also comes back to where this is going to create a new base run rate for services. How do you see that playing into the revenue model there?
That's right. The services business is already growing double digits because Apple can offer more and more things to its installed base. But that hasn't been enough for more than low single-digit growth the last couple of years. For Apple, the stock to work, growth has to accelerate from here. And the only way that happens is if iPhone sales accelerate. The last time that happened was iPhone 12. Why? Because they introduced 5G capabilities, which were compelling, and it wasn't backward compatible. The stock tripled around that introduction, and it's been practically flat for the last 3 years since then. Now we finally have something that's compelling. The functionality yesterday, when consumers have it in their hands, are going to be very excited about it. And it's not backward compatible. You have to have at least iPhone 15 Pro or newer in order for it to work. So as people buy new phones this holiday season, they're going to see this great functionality. They're going to show their friends and family, and the product upgrade cycle will happen over the next few months and quarters.
So, Gil, you see this driving the upgrade cycle. Where do you see that growth potentially topping out?
Well, we think that the consensus estimate was for iPhone to grow about 5% next year, with the year that includes the new iPhone 16. We actually increased our numbers to 10%. The growth for iPhone 12 was far higher than that. We think 10% reflects the fact that this is compelling and that you will need to use a new phone in order to be able to use all these AI capabilities that are now interwoven in the entire iPhone experience.
Gil, I mean, it's been a struggle bus for Apple so far this year, just recently flipped into positive territory for the year to date. So is the trough behind us for Apple for right now that they finally announced some of what they're going to do with artificial intelligence?
It looks like it. The stock's been flat because there hasn't been revenue growth at Apple. Now that we think that this will allow Apple's overall growth to accelerate from the low single digits into the mid, maybe even high single digits over the next year or two, that's what can drive Apple's stock. At 25 times, it reflects little to no growth. We think it could go up to as much as 30 times earnings based on an accelerating growth rate. Again, reflective of the last time the stock worked, which is around the other meaningful iPhone upgrade cycle, iPhone 12.
And Gil, post this event, how do you think Apple is positioned when you compare it to some of the other competitors in the race for AI?
We think it took the lead. because again, everybody else has to try to fit their solutions elsewhere, or it really doesn't have access to the consumer and the consumer's information. Apple has our information. Some of the demos yesterday were as we were hoping for. When you can tell the device, hey, when is my dad landing? Where can I take him for lunch? Those are things that only Apple can do. And if they indeed roll out these capabilities this fall, which is what it's looking like this fall and winter season, which is what it's looking like, they're going to take the lead over everybody else, that all they can do is chatbots, image generation, summarization, some autocomplete. Apple's going to build all that into our experience and allow these experiences to leverage our own information in order to execute tasks as an agent. That puts them in the lead.
Gil Luria, D.A. Davidson, Managing Director. Gil, thanks so much for taking the time here today to talk all things Apple. We're going to be tracking up against some of your targets here.